Welcome back, and this is Arniel Barker, and you might have seen him in some of my videos, and if you have, then find out today how he was brought up. Arniel was born in Farside City. When Arniel was a young man, he was very poor and he was homeless. Sometimes people on the street would laugh at him and bully him and say mean things which made him really upset. Over the years as he aged, he started losing hair and it started going grey. People continued to bully him and he got really sick of it. However, one day he found a magical potion and he wondered what it would do, so he went over to drink it, hoping that it would change his life. When he drank the potion, it increased his intelligence drastically, and it did not affect his physical appearance, but he could still feel that something had changed. All of a sudden, he had all sorts of knowledge about how to make money and how to craft items, and all sorts of magical knowledge and book smarts and knowledge about maths and the natural world and all sorts of things. It even gave him psychic powers, and while he was unable to hypnotise people like Sparrowlump, he had telekinesis. In other words, he was able to move objects with his mind, and he was even able to use his powers to carry himself around and move himself around in the air so that he could practically fly. He left the building and went outside to go hunt for gold. He decided to go find a river so that he could dig some out of a riverbed. The closest river was Green Gleam River, so that's where he went. He needed a shovel, so he used his psychic powers to fly up into the air and fly around above the area to see if he could spot a dropped shovel down below. But all he could find was some armour scraps, a rusty sword, a broken bow and some old arrows. He decided that if he couldn't find a shovel, he would make one instead. Then he picked up the sword so that he could cut a branch off a tree so that he could get some wood to make the shovel. He bent and reshaped the helmet to make the blade, and he used a stick as the handle. Lastly, he used some plant fibres to attach it together firmly. He was now ready to start digging, so that's just what he did. He searched through rocks and rubble to find precious gold. Then he found a golden nugget, but he wanted more, so he kept digging. He found a bit more gold, but he was getting really hungry, so he decided to make a fishing rod so he could catch some fish. He used a stick for the rod, plant fibres for the line, and an arrowhead for the hook. Also, he picked up a worm from the ground to use as bait. He then caught a fish and cooked it over a fire to eat. He was still hungry, so he kept the fish tail and used it as bait to catch another fish. And he also cooked this fish over the fire and ate it, and kept the tail to catch the next one. He repeated this process a few more times until he was full. But then the night started falling and he was getting really tired and it was getting cold. He didn't have much clothing to keep himself warm, so he decided to sleep in a sheltered area and wrap himself up with leaves. In the morning he went back to his digging spot to hunt for more gold. He kept digging for gold and living near the river for about a year, but eventually the source of gold started drying up and he had to look for another job. He decided to make a sack out of plant fibres so he could carry all of his gold to Farside City. He decided to buy some apple seeds from a market so he could start growing apple trees. Also, he bought a cauldron and a bunch of gauntlets, and since he wasn't strong enough to carry them directly, he used his psychic powers. Then he brewed a potion using nearby ingredients, and he used a stick as the mixer. Once he had finished making the potion, he poured it on the seeds to make them instantly grow into trees. Then he added an extra ingredient to the concoction to change the recipe. Next, he submerged the gauntlets in the liquid so that he could bring them to life and use them as hands that would automatically pick the apples. He kept selling apples for about 10 years until he had saved up enough money to buy everything he wanted. He got some nice shoes and a purple silk shirt and pants, and a manor house on an island called Cress Island, which he renamed to Barker Island. He also brewed himself a pet dragon in his cauldron by mixing magical ingredients with an unfertilised chicken egg from the market. He called her Scorus. Arniel then rode her to the island, carrying all his stuff with him. After about a week, he had settled down to this permanent home and gotten everything he needed. He now spends his days brewing potent potions, crafting little trinkets and crazy inventions, inventing and cultivating tasty treats for his dragon Scorus, and travelling to Farside City every few months to sell his goods. He also has a magical broom that moves about on its own and sweeps the floor of his manor, as well as a pickaxe that automatically mines stone and metal, an axe that chops trees, and a little trowel that scoops up the seeds and replants them. Arniel has a net worth of about 300,000 gold pieces, which is equivalent to about $3 million, and while he is therefore a millionaire, he has not let it go to his head and he is still kind to people. He doesn't keep all the money to himself, and he gives some to poor people and other people in need. Arniel also tries to do things in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way and is resourceful. Arniel's goal is no longer about trying to make money because he's already got as much as he needs, and he now just enjoys making and inventing stuff because he finds it fun. He's also got a really long beard now, but he wears a singlet and shorts instead of long clothing. The reason for his really long beard is that he didn't like going bald and he decided to grow it long to compensate. But as to why he wears short clothing now, that's a topic for another video.